Welcome to Real Estate Done Rightish, your favorite podcast for realtors by realtors. Happy-ish hour edition. I'm Jen.
And I'm Annalie. And for a combined 30 years, we've been working in this industry, just trying to figure it out. And by figuring it out,
we mean we've only cried in our cars twice this week.
Wah, wah, wah.
I didn't cry. Actually, I did cry once in my car this week.
You cried once in your office this week.
Yeah, so that's twice, but not twice in my car.
Okay, well,
yeah, I mean,
check. You did it.
Check it out.
See, instead of it being a night, you did
Do you
it.
think I'm manifesting this? Is that what's happening now?
Maybe.
God, do you think we have to change our tagline?
Nope.
Should it be we only struck
Celebrated.
it rich twice in our cars?
We only celebrated big wins 17 times this week only. No, it's just, it is, listen, Jen, we've talked about this how many times, and how many people have we heard talk about this, that real estate is a roller coaster, and it's not just a roller coaster. I mean, I think you're maybe experiencing the roller coaster side of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got so angry this week that I almost started to cry about something.
Yeah, you did.
It was like an injustice in business.
Yeah, it
not
was
going to
not.
share the details,
Yeah.
but it all got solved.
Yeah.
And then it's like clients' emotions and clients' worries and or like something starting to go wrong in a transaction that isn't in your control, but everybody's blaming you, or, you know, like there's so many different things that can make us cry in our cars.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I'll just
so
share
many
like
opportunities to cry in your car.
so many opportunities. I will just on that note, a couple of things, because it can get a little broken record-y if it's like, hey, every week we're actually talking about when we cried. And a couple of things. One, in my personal growth journey over the last many years, I've purposely worked on becoming softer so that I can feel emotion and not be powering through everything like I did for so many years and was just numb to life. And so that's part of the byproduct of me doing work of like not stealing myself in those moments and just allowing emotion to move and recognizing that it's just emotion. Mm-hmm. And some of that is tied to the mental game. I mean, we talked about it. And then the other thing is this week I've got personal stuff going on, just like we all do all the time. It's how big is it? How is it impacting us? For me, it's just stuff that I've been kind of hanging on to for a long time. And you guys don't need to write in. I'm okay. Everything's fine. You know, like it's just normal life. It's just kid stuff, like, you know, whatever. It's just family stuff. It's normal stuff.
Yeah.
And so all of that had compiled. And then I heard back from one of the listing appointments that I set at FSBO, and they got an offer off market, which is great for them. And I got really positive feedback, but it was just enough dings in one day that it's like, and I was talking to another, should I just keep calling him my friend? He's my friend, but I was talking to him about my science friend. Yeah. I was talking to him about, again, just like mental game. He's in, I may should be careful about actually letting people know who he is, but he's in the science field, and he was telling me about the resilience that is required in that field right now with writing grants and federal funds getting cut and not being able to use certain words in proposals because they get denied if there's certain words in it, and him really having this strong north compass of science potentially being the one area where you can define truth. And I said, well, what do you mean? What is truth to you? And he's like, it's something that you can prove with data, and it's repeatable over and over and over. And he's like, that's the only thing that I feel like as scientists, we should be the ones to hold the line to that. But bless you. Excuse me. But this is all an aside because it's happy hour. This is what we talk about.
Yeah. This isn't an aside. This is the whole.
This is the whole thing. This is the whole thing. Yeah. But him talking about needing to have resilience in that when you get grants for millions of dollars for projects you've been working on for 2 or 3 years, just all of a sudden cut, and you have to stop a really valid, important study. And then family members who have really serious health concerns, and just like watching them have resilience in those moments. So that's just been a common theme, and maybe it's because it's what's happening in my life right now, of what does it look like to really develop, we have the episode on it, but really real time, what does it look like to develop a resilient mind? Not a numb mind, not somebody that's just numbed out and denying feelings, but being able to like feel the thing, take the hit, and actually legit be like, all right, I'm going to brush myself off. I'm going to get back up and go. Like I see the long term, I see the game, I know it's going to pan out, whatever it looks like. So I don't know if and when this will ever not be a thing for me, because I think this is just life.
Yeah.
Like always something happening. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that we probably share those moments more because of our tagline and don't talk about our wins as much.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I honestly think that might be more important. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that, hearing about people's wins to me always just kind of feels like, okay, I roll. Like, yeah, so you killed it. Great. Like, is that helping? Like, tell me how or don't tell me at all, kind of, when we're talking about business specifically.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's something for us to think about, is like, we need to make sure that we are celebrating our wins and we are acknowledging our positives and not
Yeah,
dwelling.
that's
Like,
such a
there's
good point.
Good balance.
Okay, so can I celebrate my wins real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. So I actually need to go back. That's part of what's on my list to do today, is go back and look, when did I start calling? How many contacts have I made? How many appointments I've set? But I've set 3 appointments, FSBO appointments, not 1 for a referral, 2 for me. And although I didn't get them, and I was even looking back at I think I said this in the last episode, my door knocking stats was a 50% conversion ratio, which it's not super high. And it maybe would have gotten higher over time.
Different
But
kind
it's
of people,
cold,
though.
a different
Yeah.
kind of people. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I can hold that ratio and just keep setting appointments, it'll turn up eventually. It will.
I also want to say something specifically about you building the FSBO muscle right now in our market, where it's still a really strong seller's market.
Yeah.
FSBOs, I don't think, have been much of an opportunity in the last 5 years, because if somebody has just the drive to do it on their own, they can do it on their own.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying they're going to get the best number. I'm not saying they're going to get the best terms that they could have gotten using an agent, but they could get an offer.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yep.
just too few houses in our market
Yep.
here in the Twin Cities. And so if you're building the muscle and you're getting skilled now, and we shift even
A little.
closer to a buyer's market, every inch we're closer to a buyer's market, you're going to be ready to dominate in that area.
Thank you.
And if it flips to a buyer's market, you could all of a sudden be going and taking every single FSBO, because
Yeah.
those are the people that are going to be, they're going to
Needing
need help,
help. Yeah.
so that's when the opportunity blasts open in that
Yeah.
market, or in that division specifically. So I just want to put that little pin in your brain to
Thank
say
you.
you're building skill right now that could catapult.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Do you have wins
I
to share?
interrupted you.
No,
Did
that
you
was
have more?
it. Those were
Oh.
I have other wins in life, I think, but I got a great night's sleep last night. Wink, wink.
I don't know what that means. I did too? Question
That
mark.
was just a weird joke. I'm just silly. Anyways, no, I think those are my major wins. Right now, I'm looking at business as my main focus. It's another thing I've been saying. It's like I'm visualizing my future. I'm doing all this work, but a lot of it really is focused on my business right now and my kids, But so yeah, those are my major wins. Do you have any wins you want to share? Or times about your crying?
No. I mean, well, I know I didn't. I don't think I actually cried at all this week.
No. Wow. Just kidding.
That's so amazing. What does that feel
Let's celebrate that. What does that feel like?
My wins are, we're gonna transition into talking about a little bit of something that's just reshaped some of my mindset, and that is shaping some changes to my business that I'm excited about. So I'll talk about that in a second. It's my birthday this weekend,
Yay!
so I'm almost a year older.
That's exciting.
Which is great.
You
I
made it.
survived another year.
Yeah.
And I'm going up to my cabin to do some work. So
What kind of work are you doing up there?
construction work.
You really spat that out at me.
No, so my family has a cabin, and then next to it I have 5 acres of land, and on my land is a tiny house that I bought. And I bought it a little bit on a
Whim.
We'll
call it a whim.
That's about, it was a very expensive, what's that called? Not an emotional buy, but a impulse buy. I've done this a couple times. I bought a boat last summer.
I know.
But this was the most expensive one. And the person that built it didn't do the best job.
Yep.
And so I need to kind of like take it apart and rebuild some things. So that process is going to start a little bit this weekend. And then I'm going to also just work on the land a little. I have a thistle problem that I'm trying to eradicate.
Okay, so the reason I asked you that question, because I already obviously know these things about you, is because for the listeners, I think they might like to know a little bit about what a Renaissance
That I'm a
woman you are.
builder.
Yeah. I mean, for real, this is all real estate related too. It's tiny home and it's land and it's creativity and it's wholeness. It's who you are as a whole person. And I personally think it's really interesting to hear and like watch the projects you're doing. And so listeners, I'm pushing Annalie. You don't need my push. You were already doing it anyways. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be sharing more about that on my Instagram and in my team's newsletter. There'll be some stuff about it. But yeah, we're going to go pick out new siding and we're going to build a new roof. And I'm going to pick out steel roofing color and
So fun.
special order things if needed. And yeah, start that process. So, and then have a little bit of lake time and stuff up north.
Great.
So those are my wins.
Those are great wins.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to transition a little bit. So today I have a bunch of stuff in front of me, and we're going to kind of, some of this you know about, some of you don't, a bunch of it you don't.
Are you keeping secrets from me?
Yes.
And you're saving them to share in front of the people?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Annalie, what have we become?
Okay, so first I want to start a little bit about the mindset that I was talking about. I mentioned, I think last happy hour, that I'm doing this 3-week money challenge, which is kind of about energy around money, mindset around money, unblocking relationship to money or with money. And if you have blockages or past scars or just the way you were raised.
Can I ask you a question before you explain more of this?
Yes.
Do you know, as far as you know, because I'm guessing you don't talk about money with everybody you know, but can you think of anybody that has a healthy relationship with money? That feels good, that has a healthy, I can think of one person actually. And this is obviously like, I'm judging, we're using some discernment, potentially judging.
Okay. I think so.
Like I was talking to one guy from the gym. He's very successful, late 30s, and second generation from another country here, and grew up with a certain mindset around money because they just didn't have a lot growing up, and his parents worked really hard, and so he's working really hard. And and to him, he's like, it does not matter how much I have. I'm always afraid I will never have enough. So just when we're talking about relationship to money, it's not just how much we spend or save or whatever. It's actually, what does our relationship to money feel like?
Yeah.
And I think I can only think of right now one person who I feel like is a relationship with money that I would want to model myself after.
Yeah. Well, and that is exactly what I'm going to kind of talk about is the creator of this kind of course. She started talking about, as you get into this journey, I want you to recognize there's money and there's wealth and then there's abundance, and that those two things are not the same. We talked about this already, but I want to just kind of bring everybody through an exercise. So this has started to just kind of, it's that what you focus on expands idea. You go to buy a Prius and you see Priuses everywhere on the road, that kind of stuff. This has just kind of kept coming up in my brain all week. And I think I just read it last Saturday. So I'm just coming up on a week of having this information. But her point about this was, if you are looking to people that have good relationships with money, don't necessarily put them on a pedestal. Dig a little deeper and make sure that they have abundance. And her definition of abundance, or kind of her hierarchy of abundance, was number one is nature. And what she means when it comes to abundance with nature is having access. And she talked a lot about how money might be important to have some of these abundant categories, right? You might not, for instance, you might not have the luxury of having access to nature if you don't have a certain level of money.
Yeah.
Right? If you live in a certain part of a city, or you can't get into nature, or there isn't any around you, or you don't have time, or you don't have space, or, so nature. And she says to focus on your access to and connection with. So if you do have access to, are you Are you like going into nature and then staying inside the whole time? Or are you, like what is your actual connection? Are you interacting with nature? Are you acknowledging or just kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Watching.
It's also, to me, I'm going to say this, and I've on my other podcast I talked about this with a few different people. Like, it's a relationship. It's all a relationship.
Yeah.
So, are we looking to nature to only give us things? Do we offer anything back to nature? Do we work with the land? Do we, for people that have any kind of spiritual facet, do you say a prayer? Do you offer something to the land? Like Indigenous people, obviously, are the most
different relationship.
prominent. Yeah, it's different relationship with nature. Another thing that I've read around that is that nature is the example. We are nature. We are animals. We are part of nature, and nature as a whole is the example of creation and the cycle of creation and abundance. And so, when you're in nature, you're around. We talk about who you surround yourself matters. It's like, well, wouldn't that same principle apply everywhere? So if I'm in nature, like what she's saying and what you're doing this weekend, it has an impact on us. What is the impact? I don't know if we can really measure it, but the idea is that it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will note that, like, on that topic, when I'm going up north this weekend, like, I started, I want to really plant all around the edge of my entire lot, which is 5 acres. So it's going to be a lot of planting over time. But it's going to be like over time, adding perennials and kind of doing a mixture of things that wood ticks don't like to walk through, so that wood ticks don't come into my lawn, native plants, and then other just edging. And so I've been like researching that, and I'm going to start that planting process while I'm up there this weekend as well. So that's super
That feels
fun.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, and Number 2, community. So who are you surrounding yourself with? What does your community look like? Are really doing an audit. And she talked about, like, and I think for everybody that's listening to this, I would sit and kind of do an audit on these. Like, am I connecting with nature, and do I have access to nature? And if I don't, can I try to just like turn that dial a tiny bit, right? Like, what can I do to just, community. Do I have nourishing humans in my life? Who am I surrounding myself with? And if they are taking more than they're giving, I need to make some distance in those areas, and I need to seek out people that are nourishing me. And that could mean a lot of different things.
I was just going to ask you what that means to you, nourishing.
I think bringing energy or helping shift your energy, right? If you leave every conversation or every interaction with somebody and you're like feeling worse than when you started the interaction, that's not a nourishing person.
Just kidding.
Looking at you, Jen.
This week, like, there's a big head nod over here. I'm just kidding.
Not at all. No, you are one of my nourishing humans. Like, I usually, or always, I don't know if I have ever felt worse after we've interacted. I think I always feel like I have more energy, or we've had a really interesting conversation, or I've changed my mindset about something.
Yeah.
So auditing your community. And for business, that could be your office, your team, your partners, who are you interacting with, and are they feeding you and nourishing you and making you feel stronger and better in your business community? So, and that's a good one. 3 is nourishment. This is food. Like, what's your relationship with food? Are you eating beautiful, natural? Are you kind of honoring the food? It kind of feels very similar to nature here.
The relationship.
Do you have access? Do you have a good relationship? And do you have a connection? And I love eating food.
Me too.
And then I love cooking, and I love that interaction. So that one's been something that I've just been like kind of noticing and focusing on. 4 is love. This could be love with romantic partners. It could be love with children. It could be your family. It could be your dog. But what is your relationship in loving relationships? Kind of do an audit on those. And again, are they nourishing? Are they bringing you more than they're taking, or at least equal?
Yeah.
And when you're giving out love, does it feel good? So like, are you loving on the right people?
Yeah.
Kind of. And then the final one is authentic purpose. And that's the things that light up your soul. And this does not have to have anything to do with how you make money. That is a luxury if those 2 things align. But can you bring that, can you honor it, give it space, give it time, and potentially bring it into, like, we are in a business where we can bring those things
Yeah.
together a lot of times, or we can bring more of our authentic purpose or the things that light us up to our people, which help us create communities, which then help us create lifelong working relationships, right? So I just wanted to touch on that. So there's those 5
Love
categories.
that.
I'm just going to hit on really quick again: nature, community, nourishment / food, love, and authentic purpose. And I have just been those have been rattling around in my head all week. I've been noticing them. I've been kind of doing that audit on them and just kind of thinking about it. And it's shifting the way I'm seeing a lot of things in my life.
I love that. And the abundance, separating again with clarity, like the abundance is different from wealth. And what does that mean? And when you were saying that, the other thing I was thinking of, it's when I was doing a different class over the last summer, they were talking about that idea of just holding something in your awareness, the skill of contemplation, which is different than analyzing, and it's different than just like trying to put it in your subconscious. Contemplation sounds to me like what you're doing, like you're holding it in your awareness and you're open to other pieces coming in, whether it's through conversation or a book you're reading or some just aha that strikes you that's illuminating those things more for you. That's a good reminder for me because I don't feel like I've done a lot of that recently. Like I'm visualizing and I'm meditating and those feel more pointed to me, which is not bad. But then just having this, I wanted to say problem to solve, but it could be problem to solve or an opportunity or an idea that you're like, let's investigate this more instead of sitting down. I mean, I think sitting down is good, but again, just holding it there.
Only stand while you're doing this. You just should be running. Contemplation can only be done
Only
while
when
running.
you're running really fast.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah, I'm expecting I'll have much more to share as I go through this journey because there's always like little tidbits
Well,
and
and
fun
I
things
think
to
for
share.
people that might be hopping in and new to this podcast, like these episodes in particular are just kind of like what's happening in life right now. And
Yeah.
so some of it is repeat, but this is like the normal journey and people can come along the journey. Yeah.
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 Now we're gonna do a hard turn.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, I feel like that was kind of the like
Woo.
lovely yeah. Now we're gonna talk about some like
Less
headlines.
lovey.
Less lovey, more business.
Oh, okay.
No, we're going to talk about some economic stuff per the usual. That has kind of started to become just one of the topics we hit on because there are economic changes that are really affecting our worlds every single week.
Yep.
So I've got a little bit of that. And then some just like kind of headlines and some different money stuff.
Let's rock and roll.
Okay, so we're going to start with economics. Consumer inflation reports came in this week.
Yep.
Were you aware?
No, I wasn't, but I might be aware of a different headline or maybe a gossip headline that you might not be aware of. We'll see.
Gossip? Ooh, I want
Not gossip, just like, is this tabloid? Is this reliable media information? I don't know.
Okay. So consumer inflation reports came in. They were lower than expected. So inflation was less. And I did a little bit of a dive on this as to why people think that. Who knows was kind of the thing. And what started coming up a lot was the term resilient consumerism or resilient consumer, meaning consumers we're not shifting economically in the way that everything says we should be. And they're calling us.
I'm like, is resilient the right word?
Well,
To me, I'm like, if I should be dialing back my spending.
well, but inflation going down would indicate that actually has been happening, but it's not. Things aren't flying off the handle. So what they're saying is by resilient consumer, I don't think it's we're spending. We're still just going out and spending.
Oh.
I think what they're saying is we're not flipping behavior from one extreme to the other that's causing like an instant recession.
Oh.
The resiliency is a little bit in like small movements or
Not being reactive.
that's what I took from it.
Interesting.
And if anybody, again, always please correct or give your thoughts because I don't know everything and I don't know a lot of things.
That's not true. You know how to sew a beaver hat out of fur.
Well, so when that happened, so when those numbers came out, and that was on Tuesday, June 11th, no, 10th, Tuesday or Wednesday, 11th or 12th of June, breathed a little bit of positive energy into the bond market. Remember our fun bond conversation from our first
Sure
economic,
do.
and we do have a full economic episode coming soon, probably in like 2 weeks, maybe.
Yep. It'll be not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, I think. Yeah.
So if you remember back to that bond conversation where we kept them being like, it's a seesaw, remember?
Yep.
So if bonds increase in value, rise, mortgage rates typically
Go down.
fall. Exactly. There's a
Inverse
relationship there. So that breathe a little positive energy into the bond market, meaning they will be increasing, or they did increase a little bit. But the expectation is they may continue to rise a little, and we may see a little more relief in
Interest rates.
Interesting. I'll tie that right into the next topic. Or any thoughts on that before we move on?
This just feels like a little gossipy. So, don't just quote me on this, people, but I heard something on, of course, social media somewhere that people were speculating, some economist or something was speculating that once we start getting, I think they were talking specifically about unemployment rates. But either way, so one of the economic indicators that people watch, and they were speculating or wondering how accurate the data was going to be because of all of the agencies that have been gutted federally. And
sure.
Who's tracking this anymore? How are they tracking it? Do they know what they're doing? Is the data consistently reported the way that we had it reported before? Are they looking at it differently? So there was just some speculation about how reliable those numbers would be moving forward. Now, speculation. That's
the other thing I've thought about that is think of how many people are now like self-employed. So like real estate agents, influencers.
Yeah.
How many people are not employed.
Yeah.
And I could make $600,000 one year and make $0 the next year.
But
that's not being taken into consideration anywhere. So I think that, that's always interesting to me to think about how many more people, like I thought about just for real estate in 2020, how many servers and bartenders and service industry people got their license because they were like, I got to make some money and this is a place I can still do it. Right.
Yeah.
We saw an influx of agents in our industry. That's just one industry. And now I see all these people, and again, how many, I don't know, but people that are quitting their jobs because they're making money on TikTok, or they're quitting their jobs because they're doing this side hustle that's not, and it's self-employed. So like, how is that?
How are
anyway?
they measuring the success of that?
Just interesting. I don't know.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, so interesting to watch mortgage interest rates because mortgage applications nationwide surged recently. They're up. I think it was 34%. I didn't write the number.
Interesting.
So what does that indicate? Increased buyer demand, obviously.
Yeah.
Buyers are coming, and they're actually saying that it's surging the most in markets where inventory is rising.
So they're maybe hearing the message like, hey, it's not as crazy of a seller's market anymore.
Yeah,
it's time to get back in the market.
There's a lot of buyers that are
They've just been waiting.
first-time buyers or started getting their pre-approval or have been thinking about it. And they're like, oh,
This
not
is
for
going to be
me.
interesting to watch. And
Very
the millennial is
interesting.
the next largest generation next to the boomers. So if they've been sitting on the sidelines, we have this 500,000 extra homes right now, nationally speaking. How much of that's going to get eaten up? How quickly?
Right. And that's very market, it's different markets.
Yeah.
So, but when we start
Interesting.
talking about supply, demand, and buyers markets, we start seeing inventory rise. Typically, economically, that means that buyer demand drops. And so the fact that in some of these markets, inventory is rising, and that is sparking buyer demand or buyer confidence, which is then causing buyer demand. Very interesting. We're seeing all these things that economically should not be happening or are anti the normal economic rules happening. And I just think it's really fascinating when you watch that stuff to be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Because there are just so many different factors pressuring consumer behavior and pressuring all the different markets. Like I said, the talk about like inflation lowering when they expected it to go up. It didn't. I don't think it even lowered. I think it came in lower than expected.
Gotcha.
Didn't.
Yep.
So to correct my, but like that happening, right? There's consumers are just not behaving the way that they normally do, and so again, are these just new rules that we're going to start to see emerge economically, or is this a moment in time that's so volatile that people are doing things differently. It's just coming
It
out of
is
a pandemic. I mean, we
yeah.
are different people than we
Yeah.
used to be.
Yeah, that's
Also,
true.
we've all been through something collectively as a world, as a human population. So I don't know, like maybe we just behave differently now.
Yeah, this is again just like kind of another interesting thing to think about, but I'm thinking right now, one thing that's been on my mind a lot is AI and the conversations that I hear people having about the jobs that it is already replacing. And I just read a thing on LinkedIn today about a way that you can, Claude is the big AI one that I use, and you can connect it with, it's called MPC, and I don't know what that stands for. Like I just started reading about it this morning, and link that up to your email, and just you pay not very much money, link it up to your email. It will draft auto responses for you on your behalf. It won't send them, hopefully. But like all of the wild different things right now that you can create an AI agent and not for a whole lot of money. And so, and that's just one example, but I think that there are real people that are starting to lose their jobs or speculate that it's happening. I just talked to someone the other day that's an entrepreneur that used to do coding and some AI work as well. And he's like, the writing's on the wall, my job's eliminated. Like I've got to.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of variables, wild factors. Yeah.
Interestingly, right before this, I had a Zoom meeting with clients, and at the end of it, and I've not seen this on Zoom before, it said, would you like an overview of the meeting you just had? And it was an AI transcript and notes of what we talked about. And what did I say I was going to send them anything? Did I say I was going to offer them anything? It would break all of that down, which for me, because I say things all the time and I would forget, and I forget because you're a little ADHD. Yeah. Super helpful. I would have been like, thank you. Well, and that we've talked about this, like literally that kind of stuff could replace a real estate assistant.
Oh my gosh.
Really easily.
Well, I just said it to
just change the job.
I know, sorry, assistants, like I would love to hire another one someday, but there's so much work. Like I just was showing somebody else something that I used for social media this morning, and she was like, what? You do what? How? And I'm like, yeah, it's taking me some time to build this out, but I don't think I would need to hire an assistant. I could probably do 50, 60 units a year without hiring a full-time assistant. Like maybe I would have some TC help, but I've barely scratched the surface with AI right now. Like the things it can automate and build, I'm like, I don't know. I would want one because I like humans, but I don't know. Anyways, yeah.
We can just get more friends. We don't have to pay them. Oh my
gosh. Yeah, let's not pay our friends to be our friends.
Okay.
Okay, moving
on. The biggest mortgage company in the United States, which is United Wholesale Mortgage.
Had never heard of them.
UWM. They are bringing back a 1% down payment option.
What? What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting.
That's a very safe response.
I don't know.
Why are they doing it? What are they saying? What's the?
They didn't say a whole lot. They used to have it pre-2008. There used to be a lot of interesting mortgage options.
I know, right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's coming back more than likely to try to open up buyer markets, right? Interest rates have been higher for longer than they thought they were going to be. Trying to get more buyers into the market, trying to get just have more products to offer. I think it's just expanding a mortgage portfolio, really, as far as options. Now, what you think, what I start to think about is, those mortgages get packaged and sold in the secondary market. What happened the last time is that CD mortgages, which would be low down payment, lower credit score, higher risk mortgages, started getting packaged as A mortgages and sold. And that was part of the problem. If you've ever watched The Big Short,
I actually haven't watched it. I should
pretty good.
watch it.
They do a pretty good job of explaining some of that, how there was just a lot of mispackaging and mismanagement of mortgage in the secondary market, bond market. So I think as long as it's regulated correctly, and, I think why is someone using a 1% down mortgage option? Do they also have other really high risks? That starts to make me nervous.
Right.
And with high interest rates, are we starting to get people into home ownership before they're ready to be homeowners?
Right.
I think that protecting consumers it should be their job, but we're talking about, a lot of consumers that don't have protection. They don't have as much education. They don't have as much
I was
money.
just
They
gonna
don't have
say
as much
that.
access.
I mean, in one sense, it's like this is amazing. We're gonna make home ownership more accessible to more people, and I'm a fan of that. You think about the power and the wealth and all of that comes
Absolutely.
with home ownership. At the same time, I think the way that you're putting it is really smart, obviously. It's just like, yeah, no, these are still people that need protection. And the worst thing would be to get them into home before they're ready or educated enough, and then they have to foreclose. And
then they're set back.
They're set back for
more than
a
they would have
long
been.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a delicate dance there. I think it
Yeah.
can be done correctly and managed correctly. And there can be safeguards put into place and education requirements put into place for people. I would love to know the other criteria.
I was just going to say the 1% in and of itself, I jumped to what? Because I was assuming it meant a lot of other things like low credit score or high debt to income ratio or other things like that. But I'm like, just the 1% down. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, there's 3% down conventional.
Right.
It's not that different.
No.
Okay. Who cares?
Yeah.
But, just a big headline.
That's nationwide?
That's a nationwide
national?
company. That's a
Okay.
national company.
So
Yeah.
that's good
So
to
it
know
should
for our
be
consumers
rolling
too.
out.
We should look into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be rolling out. Now, depending on which mortgage broker you work with, will they have access to that as in their portfolio? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know that information. And that headline just came out, I think, yesterday.
Nice. Hot off the press, Annie. Look at you being Annie on the spot.
I'm your news anchor for real estate headlines. And interpreting them. Am I right? Probably not, but I'll interpret them. Okay. Final thing. This was dropped this morning.
Oh my gosh, Annie.
Even hotter.
Hot.
I think this is interesting. This was dropped in Minnesota, where we are located in the state of Minnesota, and it was talking about average income.
Oh, what did you learn?
And do you make, oh no, it wasn't average income. It was saying, do you make enough to live comfortably in the state that you live in?
Oh my gosh. All right.
This is interesting.
Let's hear it.
So Smart Asset put out a 2025 study showing what it takes in all 50 states to live a comfortable lifestyle. Okay, what does that mean?
I was just going to ask.
They took into consideration being able to afford hobbies, vacations, retirement savings, education funds, and the occasional emergency, in addition to necessities like housing, groceries, transportation, and medical expenses. So they are looking in the cost of living, and then also they were using the 50-30-20 budgeting rule, which is 50% to necessities, 30% to discretionary spending, and 20% to long-term goals or savings. And I'm just gonna give a couple examples. Just for a single person. They did do a second, I didn't print it out, but they did do a whole list of for a family of four, how much it would cost as well.
A lot.
Which is really interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so first, I want you to guess
Oh gosh.
how much you need in the state of Minnesota as a single person to live a quote unquote comfortable lifestyle. And that is, again, taking into consideration hobbies, vacations, retirement savings, education funds, and emergencies, and housing and groceries and transportation.
I'm like, what is this? What do we taste? This take home? This is gross.
It says, do you make?
Okay. Well, I mean, I feel like my number is a little probably on the higher end.
Well, you have children.
I do have children. I'm going to say a minimum of 150.
$91,728.
Okay. Still, that's kind of high though. I was shooting high a little bit because I'm like retirement, like all of that. That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
91.
Yeah. So the headline in Minnesota was, do you make $91,728 a year? If you don't,
you're feeling the
you
pain.
might be uncomfortable right
Yeah.
now. So kind of interesting. Now, second thing I want you to guess
Okay.
is on the list of 50 states, what number do you think we are? Meaning,
In terms of
most
least?
expensive is number 1.
Oh.
Least expensive is number 50. Where do you think we land?
I think we're 18.
Oh, no.
Where are we?
29.
Oh, okay.
So this comes back to, and we're always going to talk about Minnesota and the Twin Cities more because we're here, but this comes back to when we talked about affordability, right? Like it is more affordable here than many places. You need to make less to be comfortable, quote unquote, here.
So what are don't name them all, but
What
states.
What do you think
Wait,
number one is?
I was thinking cities, actually, when you said that. I was thinking top 50 cities.
Oh, yeah.
I saw number one. I can't lie. It's Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, we talked.
I wouldn't have thought that would have been the most expensive. I was thinking like New York.
Well, New York isn't even number 2.
What?
Hawaii comes in. Now this is, remember, this is different.
Yeah.
This is what it takes to be comfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. To live there as a single person.
Okay.
Hawaii also came in number 1 for
family
most expensive, or the ratio of housing affordability. When we talked about that one, they were also the most expensive, or the least affordable.
Okay.
The most expensive, whatever. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying, right?
I'm tracking.
I hope people figure out what I'm talking about half the time. I don't know. Make it up if you can't figure it out. Call me. Yell at me.
Hawaii's, you got to make the most money to live there comfortably.
You need to make, how much do you think you need to make in Hawaii as a single person?
150.
124.4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just have expensive taste, I think.
I don't know.
You think everybody has to make $150,000?
I don't know.
Well, also think about, like, if we're talking about Minnesota, for instance, at 91,000.
I am thinking about like having kids and like what if I didn't have kids and I was just on my own, I could get away with a lot less than what I feel like I'm
For sure.
I can't. Yeah.
By the way, family of 4.
Yeah. What is it?
Which, I mean, you are.
Yeah.
You have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
251.
Yeah, my number's 250.
Yeah.
That's my goal for this year for gross income is 250. And it's like, and I feel like I'm making up for lost time. I worked in nonprofit and made $45,000 a year for most of my career. So 250 actually feels on the low end to me. And that's partially why you hear me talking about hustling so much right now. It's like, I got to go.
Yeah.
It's go time. Yeah.
Well, we're getting old. We might want to retire
We're getting
someday.
wise. That's what's happening. Yeah, we do want to retire. But here's the other thing. I'm like, 43. The cool thing, we've said this so many times, the really powerful thing to me about real estate is that in 10 years, I could be anywhere I wanted, with knowing the industry, knowing how to systematize, knowing how to scale, knowing how to service people well.
Also knowing how to manage wealth.
Oh, that too.
Because there's a lot of people that make a lot of money that have $0 or no wealth.
And I've had seasons like that in my life where I'm spending because I'm like, finally, like, I think this is going back to what you were talking about. I'm just going to out myself, but the relationship with money, because I grew up with so little. We were on food stamps and there were times, like, there were hard times, and then made so little money in most of my adult life. As soon as I started making good money, also coinciding with when my dad died, it was like the kid who finally got a good meal. I was like, I have money. I'm spending it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I've lived my whole life not spending it. I'm going to spend this money because I don't know when it'll be here again.
Yeah.
And that's that relationship with money. So, and that's scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Scarcity mindset can also look like I'm never going to spend $1 because I'm afraid I'm never going to have it come in again. So I'm just going to let it rot over here in a shoebox. And that was actually in the book. I was just reading a real example of somebody that died a millionaire but lived like a pauper because he saved all his money, hoarded it.
Well, my brother and I just had this conversation that for both of us, the more money we make, the less we spend.
Interesting.
Or the less we spend on, like, instant gratification, I should say. Like, I now get more gratification putting a chunk of money into my stock account than I do going and buying, like,
I wonder if
like
it's
junk at Target.
I wonder
you know what
if
I
it's
mean?
the same as, like, if you go on like a really strict restriction diet, when you're restricting yourself from certain foods or certain things, and then you're like,
you're more likely
frick
to, like,
it, I'm going to splurge today.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I could see that being with money when you're on a really tight budget for a really long time. And then you're like, no, I need to feel good and I'm going to buy this thing. Is that maybe what it is?
I don't know. I mean, when I had no money in my 20s, like, I was in real estate, market crashed. I had a mortgage that was very expensive for being 25.
Yeah.
And there was literally, like, no income. This is when I started just being, like, an assistant for random agents and picking up random jobs. I remember, like, knowing that my credit card was pretty maxed out and I didn't know when my next, like, I only was making enough to, like, cover my bills and, like, going to Target and just wanting to buy pretty things.
Yeah.
Like, just wanting some, like, to
Junk
satiate,
food.
junk food of spending. Yeah.
Yep.
It was just, and it would be random. Like
Yeah.
I would just walk around Target for an hour and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna, and I would spend like, I mean, $200, which was
That's a lot then.
way too much money for me to be spending. And I would do that all the time.
Yeah.
And just like blow money on things that I did not need or did not really even care about because
Emotional
it gave you
spending.
that immediate like dopamine hit.
Yep.
And now I'm like, I'm not buying that junk.
Yeah.
Rather, like I said, I get like way more of a dopamine hit investing
Yeah, that's so
or
great.
like saving or
Yeah.
it's just interesting how those relationships can shift. And I've done some work on it and now I'm doing more. Okay. Anyway, back to, I just want to touch on a couple of states. I actually meant to see like which states had the most listeners in our stats
interesting.
because I was going to make sure to call those
I might
out.
be able to pull that up on here while you're doing that. Let's see.
But we mentioned Hawaii is number 1. I'm just going to put just quick call out the top 5.
Okay.
Hawaii. Second is Massachusetts.
Oh, interesting.
Which I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's like from New York. People that
also
are
like
outstate.
Cape Cod.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been reading a lot of like summer book reads, like 5 in the last 2 weeks that are all based on Nantucket.
Oh, interesting.
And of course, what is the first thing that I did? I went and looked at real estate prices on Nantucket.
Yeah.
Dude.
Insane.
There's like a 1-bed, 1-bath cottage. Cute. You know, the typical what you would think of Cape Cod housing, like the weathered cedar shake siding. Adorable, but like 1 bed, 1 bath. Guess how much?
2.3 million.
No, you are so on the high end of everything. Like $995.
I don't know.
$995.
I was thinking absurd amounts.
$1 million.
Like,
and it's on like a little, not on the water. Can't see the water.
That's crazy.
Just in the middle, like not in a good area of Nantucket, which I'm learning because I'm reading all these books that are based there. Ridiculous.
So fun. I have other states for you here.
Okay.
Our listenership. Tennessee, next to Minnesota, is our next top listening state. Tennessee.
Okay. Tennessee, interesting. Almost identical to Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah, which I'm kind of shocked because I would think Nashville would have pulled that number up a little bit maybe.
Yeah, this person's from Nashville too. If you're listening from Nashville, I see you on here.
Is it one person?
Oh, it's several downloads from Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. So it's probably one person listening to several episodes.
Okay, we see you.
Yeah.
So $300 less. They're number 30 on the list, 91,478. What else do you got for me? Washington, number 5.
Really? That doesn't
expensive.
Surprise me, actually. Seattle.
Well, and just Bellingham. You think of everywhere I've ever been in Washington. I mean, mostly coastline, which that makes sense. But 109,658 for a single person to live comfortably
in Washington. How about Indiana?
Indiana, where are you? Number 40, 86,570.
You could do anything and live there.
Yeah.
Not really. I feel like there's still like, what does a teacher make these days? You know, like they're like, what's the like an average? I just hate to say average, but you know, just like somebody that's working in the workforce, working hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what they make. I'm guessing they make 70 something starting out, maybe 60 something, maybe.
Yeah.
When I
have a lot of teachers in my family, so I should know this.
There are a lot of jobs posted right now for $60,000 or $70,000. When I was looking.
Yeah. But you can't live comfortably here with that amount of money.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
That's like, the point. Yeah, that's sad.
That's the point.
I mean, also, can you be strategic about what you're spending and live comfortably on $60,000 in Minnesota? I think so.
I think you can too. I think there's a lot of things we should do, like a money series or a couple money episodes or something. Yeah. But I think it's interesting to just look at again. It was probably 2 summers ago, I was listening to a lot of podcasts in the FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early. So these people that get really, 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 really frugal and figure out how to save 50% of what they're earning, no matter how much they're earning. If they're earning $50,000 a year, they're house hacking, they're renting a room from somebody, they're driving a bike riding a bike to work instead of driving. They're taking a bus. They're like doing everything to maintain the standard of living of 50% of their income. And then over time, that income increases and they invest the other 50%, and the yields on the 50% becomes what they live off of. If you did that for 10 years, you could live that lifestyle off that yield. So if I make $250,000 a year and I live on half of that, invest the other half, the 4% that if it was in
Expected
stock
returns,
or expected return over historically in real estate is the same in theory, but in stocks, if you could just draw that yield once a year, you can, that in 10 years would be 100, what's half of 250?
125.
125. That would be $125,000 a
live
year
off of.
just off of that 4%. So that was kind of at the time I was like, okay, my income had just gone up and I was like, I was decreasing my expenses as quick as I could in every way and trying to figure out, like I was looking at renting out my ADU and like figuring out how to continue to lower. And it does feel like kind of nickel and diming, but we spend a lot of money on a lot of things. We probably don't realize how much money we're spending. You know?
We live in a
consumerism
focused country.
Yeah.
Okay, just to wrap this up, I do think it's interesting. West Virginia is number 50. You need to make the least. You need to make the least
It's
in West
beautiful
Virginia.
out there.
I know, to be comfortable.
I
and
also could live in a tent there, probably.
Then you'd need to make even less.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
80,000.
Huh, okay.
80,829.
Yeah.
Bottom few states, North and South Dakota,
Not surprising.
Arkansas, and then West Virginia. Kentucky's down there. Kentucky's also beautiful.
I've never been.
I also think it's interesting, the difference between the number 50 and number 1 is $45,000.
Not that, I mean,
it's
again, it depends on what your career is.
It's crazy because I do think we're a little bit jaded.
We are, because in real estate, it's like, I just have to sell 4 more houses. Yeah.
Like, I just try a little bit harder and I can increase my income.
You're like, there's no way.
There's no way to
doing
change that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's interesting that spread, I would think it would be higher, the spread.
Yeah.
But again, this is averages, it's algorithms, it's whatever. But I think that's, I think,
fascinating.
I think we should continue to talk about money and wealth because I do think that the opportunities in real estate are so huge. And I think that a lot of people get money and don't treat it the way they should to set themselves up for long-term comfortability and long-term success.
Yeah.
And I fall into that category. For years, I did not pay attention to my money. I spent it when I had it. I was frugal when I needed to be. I mean, I've done some investing and I've done some real estate investing and some different things. But again, most of that was like knee-jerk reaction spending.
Yeah.
Like I bought land on a whim. I got, I've done some things that I set up my first investing accounts kind of just like, I don't know. I was like bored. And I was just like, I'm going to start investing. And now I just have money go into it. I don't even really pay attention.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch it grow.
That's
and then I get excited about
I
planning.
think that's one of the biggest opportunity in the real estate community is really understanding the business of real estate, not just selling houses, and then B, really looking at the money side of it, like as business owners, but just as humans. And I've said it. If anybody knows me and has seen me on social media or heard me talk about it, I've been talking about it, and it's uncomfortable, to be honest. It's more, I will say this, I'm noting right now that I'm much more comfortable having this conversation now than I was first talking about this 3 years ago. And I was purposely talking about it to try to desensitize myself to the conversation, because even the sensitivity around it to me was like, oh, there's still stuff here.
There.
There's baggage here. There's shame here. There's a weird narrative that I'm holding on to. There's fear from when I was a kid. There's stuff. And just like anything, the more we talk about it, the more it normalizes the conversation. And anything that we keep in the shadows or just keep quiet on doesn't give us the opportunity to have conversations with people that know something that I don't know.
Right.
It's like, oh, hey, Jen, have you thought about using this app, Acorn, which is the one that you had showed me years ago. or we were in our group coaching, like accountability group with some of those women, and they were sharing some things, and financial advisors. But until you put yourself in the conversation, you're just in the dark, like hoping and wishing and praying. And that's scary AF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I also think,
it's fun too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I do not have it all figured out at all. And I think the more that we talk about it, and it pushes me to keep focusing on my own things and learning and growing and asking questions and staying in curiosity.
Yeah.
And then, getting in the room where people are talking about it and being a part of the conversation, and not just being like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Oh my gosh. That's,
which I felt for
so many years.
Yeah.
One last thing, this at least the last thing for me. I'm looking over at my bag because I just read this in one of the books that I'm reading. I'm reading 3 different books on wealth and abundance right now. So coincidentally or not, we're both like doing the same thing right now. But one of the books was, where was I going with this? He was saying that there are a lot of people at that time. This is early 1900s, so a while ago.
Yeah.
But, and I just anecdotally would say that I'm seeing the same thing true in my world right now, which is that a lot of people will spend up until their 40s figuring out how to work, figuring out what their strength is, their skill set is. Entrepreneurs will try things, they'll take risks. A lot of people will lose everything. A lot of people start around 40 really earning money, and between 40 and 50 or 55 is like your best earning years. And that was just so nice for me to hear and then I'm thinking of a lot of relatives of mine that are business owners that almost all of them lost everything at one point and just started over. And so if you're listening today, or for somebody like me that feel like I have time to make up for, like lost time as a single woman and all of the financial things that I've been through, it's like, it's not for naught, and it's definitely not too late. And there's a lot of opportunity in real estate to like right the ship at any point. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have for today.
You did great. Thank you for bringing that agenda.
Oh, you're welcome.
She's been bringing the agenda, folks, to these happy hour episodes most of the time, and it's nice.
Yeah, just sharing the news.
Oh, you're such a good
What's
news
in the
anchor.
news? Thank you.
Annalie,
I'm gonna
Nino. All right. Well, that's all then for this episode of Real Estate Done Rightish. Until next time, cheers to doing it rightish.
We'll try. I'll just do it as fast as it feels okay. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general knowledge and informational purposes only and do not constitute professional, legal, or financial advice. As licensed real estate agents in the state of Minnesota, we are not attorneys, financial advisors, or tax professionals, and we cannot provide advice in those areas or in regards to any agency or broker-specific topics in any other state. Any reliance you place on the information provided in this podcast is strictly at your own risk. We strongly encourage you to consult with qualified professionals for specific guidance related to your individual circumstances.
Wow! That was good. All right. Holy Welcome to Real Estate Done Rightish, your favorite podcast for realtors by realtors. I'm Jennifer.
What is happening?
Oh, wait, this is also Happy-ish Hour edition.
Yeah, start over.
Welcome to...
What are you doing?
I'm getting you to laugh.
Okay.
I do think it's funny.
It sounds like you're on on NPR, like an afternoon NPR show. Welcome to Knitting with Jennifer.
Knitting. Welcome to Real Estate. God damn it. Welcome to Real Estate Done Rightish, your favorite podcast for realtors by realtors. I'm Jen.
Nope, you got to start over.
Yeah, we're going to say it at the end.
Nope.